Now that we have the validation and the form itself set up, what we want to do when somebody successfully submits this form is we want to send it to a Gmail address of our choice. So the first thing we're going to need to do to get that to work is we're going to need to install something called Composer. Go to getcomposer.org, and Composer is basically a package manager, but for PHP. So what we can do is navigate to download, and then what we need to do is download and run the composer-setup.exe. Once that downloads, go ahead and open it up, say install for all users. Developer mode, we're not going to select that because we don't need it. And then here we want to select the PHP version that we're using with our WAMP server. If you guys don't know what version you are currently using, go down to your WAMP server, and what you want to do is go right here to where it says PHP, and it will say the version right here. And remember, before you can install Composer, you need to have PHP installed on your computer. But with our WAMP server installation, it already has that installed for us. So since we're using 8.3.6, that's where we want to go ahead and install it to. So we'll go ahead and hit next. And once we get here, if you have a proxy server, you can go ahead and enter it here. But in our case, we don't need to worry about that. So we'll click next, and now we can just hit install. And once this installs successfully, it'll say that it's completing Composer setup, and you can go ahead and click finish. Now what you need to do is go ahead and restart your computer at this point. Now that we installed Composer and restarted our computer, open up your code editor again, and also you want to open your WAMP server again. Once WAMP server is successfully started again, go ahead and open your locally hosted project. And again, we're working out of Kalman Web Design, so we'll open this one specifically. And then to make sure that Composer is successfully installed, what we want to do is open a terminal in our code editor, create a command prompt here, and simply say Composer. And if Composer is installed, what it will do is it will show you all of the Composer installation here, and it will show you the version that you also have installed. After that, we can go ahead and close out of this command prompt. What we need to do now is we need to install something called PHPMailer to successfully send an email to our Gmail account of choice. And in our instance today, I'm going to send it to kalmanwebdesign@gmail.com. So to get this all set up, what we need to do is create a composer.json file so we can actually install our dependencies. So we're going to again open our terminal, and what we want to do is open a command prompt, and we want to run the code composer init to create our composer.json. For this, we're just going to go ahead and hit enter. We really need to put an email or anything special. I guess it's going to force me to put an email here, so I'll go ahead and do so. Use kalmanwebdesign@gmail.com. Here it wants to force me to do this as well, so if it does this to you guys, just enter something as well. Go ahead and hit enter through the rest of this, and then it says, would you like to define your dependencies? I'm just going to leave that blank for now. Search for a package. I'm not going to worry about any of this. Just go ahead and press N to skip, and then I want to confirm my generation with Y. And now you guys can see that my composer.json file has been successfully created. Now to install our dependencies, what we need to do is I'm going to shrink this, make this just a little bit bigger so we can see what's going on. So to install, what we need to do is say composer followed by require, and we need to say PHPMailer / PHPMailer. Go ahead and hit enter from there, and that will install our PHPMailer dependency. As you guys can see here, it will require our PHPMailer installation here, and it will give us the version here as well. So what we can do now is go back to our contact form.php file. We can close out of our terminal and back up here after our test input function. So basically before our form validation is we want to include our PHP mailer here. And to do this, we want to say use PHPMailer slash PHPMailer slash PHPMailer one more time. Then we want to copy this line and paste it down below, and instead of having PHPMailer at the end, we want to say exception so we can log any errors. You guys can see it's giving us that underline because we haven't used it yet. So now within our if statement, checking if our validation successfully passed, and before we clear out our input fields, what I want to do is create a mail variable, make this equal to new PHPMailer, and then inside of these parentheses, I want to say true. Now I need to create a try catch, so I'll go ahead and create that now. And here is where we're going to configure our server settings for our PHPMailer. So the first thing I need to do is use my mail variable, and I want to set the SMTP debug equal to 0. And then here I'm going to go ahead and copy this, paste it down below, and instead of saying SMTP debug, I want to say is SMTP because we're going to be using an SMTP on Gmail to go ahead and send this email. Paste that again one more time. So I'll go ahead and copy this section here, go ahead and paste it here. And now instead of is SMTP, I want to specify my host. And your host for Gmail is going to be smtp.gmail.com. I'm going to paste this one more time, and this needs to be SMTP auth for authorization, and we need to set this equal to true. I'm going to paste this again, and this needs to be our username to log into our Gmail account. And for our username, it's going to be my email, kalmanwebdesign@gmail.com, or whatever username you guys want to use for this today. And next, we're going to need to set up our password here, and then username actually needs to be capitalized, so I'll go ahead and change that. And our password is going to be a little bit tricky here, so we'll leave this blank for now. What we need to do now is navigate into our Google account. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Google account here, go ahead and sign into my Google account real quick. If I haven't already, it looks like I'm already signed in. Once I'm signed into my account, I want to go to security, and what I need to do to make sure that this works is first, I need to make sure that two-step verification is on. If you guys haven't enabled this already, go through the process of setting up your two-step verification for your Google account and make sure that all your recovery phone, recovery email is set up and ready to go, and you don't have any errors at all here. Once you have all of that set up, go to two-step verification. From here, we want to log into the account again, so I'll go ahead and do that really quick. And once you guys get into two-step verification, you want to go down to where it says app passwords. This is going to be all the way down at the bottom. You guys can see I already have one created, but in your instance, you probably don't have any yet. So what we're going to do is go ahead and click on this, and you guys can see that I already have one created that I used today just to test out this project. What I'm going to do is create a new one, and I'm going to go ahead and call this Kalman Web Design and go ahead and create it. And you're going to see that it gives us a password here, and don't try and rip off my password because I'm immediately going to delete this after I'm done filming this video. So please don't try and rip me off here because you're not going to get anywhere. Make sure that you keep this password securely somewhere, because once you hit done, you're not going to be able to come back and view this password again. You'll have to come back and create a new app from scratch if you don't have this password either remembered or written down somewhere. Once you have that written down, go ahead and click done. Now we can navigate out of Google, go back to our code editor, and instead of having a blank password, what we want to do is enter the password that Google just gave us right here as our app password. Now we can go ahead and continue, so we'll use our mail variable, and we want to make sure that this is secure, so we'll use SMTP secure. Make this equal to PHP PHPMailer again, followed by 2 colons, and we want to say encryption start TLS. And then for now, we're just going to use our default port. So we'll use our mail variable again, specify our port, make this equal to 587. And now we're going to get into the recipients portion of this. So we need to use our mail variable again. And here we're going to use our set from method. I'm going to create the from email address here. And this is simply going to be a generic email address. So I'll use toptrucks@info.com. And I'll say this is from Top Trucks. Now I need to use the mail variable one more time. I want to add an address, and this is where the email is going to be sent to. And I simply want to use my business email of kalmanwebdesign@gmail.com. And then we'll just simply say Kalman Web Design here. Now we need to create the content of what is actually going to be sent and set up the layout. So I'll use mail, and we want to send an HTML formatted email. So we'll say is HTML, and we want to set that to true. Now we can go ahead and dynamically set our subject line here using our mail variable followed by subject. We want this to be equal to top truck form submission. And now we can set the body of what is going to be in this email. And we're actually going to set this up in an HTML format. So we'll just go ahead and start creating our HTML elements like we're creating an HTML page. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to paste in my head element followed by a title, followed by some basic styling, how we want to style this email. You guys can change this to whatever you want. Now we're going to set up our body element. We're going to create a div with a class equal to submission, create an H3 that says form submission, create another div element, create a P element here, and we're going to go ahead and say first name, and we're going to go ahead and copy this paragraph element, paste it right in here, and here we can dynamically display the information that is entered in the form using our variables. So we're going to use our fname variable here, which is going to be our first name input field. And now we can just go ahead and copy and paste this 3 more times. So we'll do that like so. Change this second one to last name, change this third one to email, and we can just change our variable names as we go through here, and change our last one simply to message, and change our variable to our message variable. Now we need to make sure that we include our semicolon at the end of this. And then the last thing we need to do here is go ahead and successfully send this information to our email. So we'll just use our send method here. Now after this is sent, what we want to do is change what our form display variable is going to display onto our page. So all we need to do here is make this simply equal to a div element with some information. So we'll create a div. This div is going to have a class equal to submission and an ID equal to target. Inside of this, we'll create an H3 element. And here we just want to say your message was sent and make sure we close out our element. Now we need to set up our catch to catch any errors that we might have. So we'll use our exception followed by our event here. And we're just going to go ahead and copy this from up here. And we want to change our form display to this code here. But instead of saying your message was sent, we want to say message could not be sent, try again, or call us directly. And then we want to make sure we close this off with our semicolon. Now we need to move on to the testing portion of this. So what we'll do is go back to our contact form, go ahead and make sure we reset this or refresh it. And I'm going to go ahead and put in some dummy data here. Go ahead and include an email address, and I'll just say hi. Go ahead and submit. And you guys are going to see that there's an error displaying here, and this error is going to be pretty simple to fix. You guys can see over here that instead of putting body with a capital B, I accidentally put a lowercase. You guys are going to notice that I'm having another error, and it's going to be because up here I forgot to include my auto load PHP file. So what I need to do is require my vendor /autoload.php file. And if you guys need to get in and change this file at any point, you shouldn't have to at this point. It's going to be located in your vendor and right here at autoload.php. Go down below our form, and what we're going to do is create some PHP code here, just like so. And here we want to go ahead and echo our form display variable, just like this. So we'll go ahead and refresh this. So now you guys can see everything is working correctly. I'm going to go ahead and enter some dummy data again one more time, just to prove to you guys that this is successfully working. And I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. Now you guys can see that when we submit it successfully, it scrolls us down so we can see your message was sent, and inside of our Gmail, you guys can see that it is popping up correctly. Tap here to see what happens next.